Cliff. Nice to see you. Ready to go?
All right, good evening, everybody. It's about time to get going. It's nice to see everybody. Nice to see everybody live. Do we have any first-time visitors tonight? Do we have any guests that have joined us for the first time? All right. Somewhere we have a first-time guest. Welcome. First-timer? All right. Thanks for coming. Do we have anybody who just joined for the first time tonight? New members tonight? No new members? Surely you're out there. Waiting? Okay. Well, if you're on the fence, we hope you are considering joining. We're all pretty happy about our guild, so we would love to have you join us. Want to also say hello to our visitors on Facebook Live and YouTube. If you're watching out there, we appreciate it. And if you've got any comments, or if you're not a member, how'd you hear about it? Feel free to comment, say hello, come down and see us. We meet here as most of you know, but every third Wednesday. So come on down and see us. Now we just get through our kind of programmatic part of the agenda. So I'll buzz through those real quick. As far as officers report, I don't have anything. I feel like I've been traveling 2 of the last 3 weekends, so a little bit of a whirlwind for me. You may have seen in the newsletter, I had a little bit of a time to nerd out with my brother and my dad, and I think like I said in the newsletter, my wife would have hated this, but we looked at old furniture and old houses for 4 straight days. And I think my wife would have lasted about 3 hours, and then we would have had to go like to a Target or something. I don't know. Yeah, we're in the Philadelphia, Wilmington, Delaware, Baltimore. We saw some amazing stuff from Virginia as we drove up from North Carolina. So just amazing stuff. So if you're interested in that, you can check out some of my pictures, and I have way more. If I can nerd out with you all too. But you guys probably know I'm a period furniture guy, which I'm one of the few here, but I love the 18th century crafts, especially the stuff made in Philadelphia, the Mid-Atlantic, Virginia, North Carolina. Mike, Vice President, do you have anything? David, Roth, anything to talk about tonight? Not tonight. I haven't seen Craig. Is Craig here tonight? There he is, just came in. Any announcements, Craig? Come on up. No time like the present. Let's see if that works.
Got the yellow one on? All righty. We are sold out of tables for Santa's Workshop. So, yay. But we still have room on the Guild members table. And so if you want to sell 1 or 2 of your items, on that that Saturday or Sunday, make sure you have them here on the Friday before the event. Make sure it's clearly labeled with your name, your phone number, what the item is, and how much you want for it. And if it sells, we'll put the money or check in an envelope, and you can pick up your envelope the day or after the event is over. Any unsold items will return to you at that same time. So, yeah, we're happy we sold out a month in advance, and we were worried that, boy, we hope we sell out even the 2 days before. So, quite pleased with that. How many of you have already signed up to exhibit? I know you have. Yes, very nice. All right. Yes, Santa. All right. Other than that, make sure you tell everybody, if you've got any kids in your family, grandkids, bring them down, make a truck with Santa, and we even are going to laser engrave their name on it in the year so they have a souvenir that they can take with them. You're oohs and ahs coming about that. So yeah, it'll be a fun event for everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, Craig. I think we're still looking for volunteers for Santa's Workshop. Am I right? You want to come up and speak to that?
I
I would love to say that we were filled up with volunteers, but we're not. We're about a month out, and we have 47 slots open, and I'm at a point where I'm really getting worried. I'm especially worried about the afternoons, especially Sunday afternoon, where we do not have enough machine operators and we do not have enough assemblers. At this point, with the number of people signed up for Sunday afternoon, I would have to tell Santa to go home because we can't make trucks. So, please, if you're at all thinking about signing up to volunteer and help out, please now go ahead and go out there and do that because we really need your help to make this come alive for the kids.
And it's right on the main page of the Guild.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, right on the main page of the Guild. Amazing event. Such a success last year. It's only going to be better. A lot of people are putting a ton of work into this, but we do need your help. So I need to. I'm preaching to myself too. I need to go in and see if I can find a slot to come out and help. Going down the agenda, Gary, I know you wanted to talk about a couple of things, so come on up. Gary is our tireless guild treasurer. Come on over here.
Okay. It is getting toward the end of the year, and this is when we start our budget process. So any of you who have suggestions on how we should spend or on what we should spend our money next year, this is your opportunity to have input. You can contact any of the leadership committees, or you send me an email, and we will see whether it makes the budget cut or not. But what we're looking for is for whatever you think that we should need, or whatever you would like us to spend some money on, and or how we can make some money. And so all of that is then tied up into the budget. The budget process, we hope to have that done by December, and then we'll start the new year with the new budget. Financially, we're in good shape, so we should have a nice budget for next year. The other thing is that we have some storage in the back, and for those of you that keep wood back there, the price of storage is going to go up for next year by about 20%. And we also have
inflation hurts.
We're trying to clean up a little bit back there too, because it's getting a little bit unruly. We haven't charged people for stacking wood along the wall, and so that is going to end this year. You'll get an email with whatever. If you have a storage back there, you'll get an email at the same time where you get your membership renewal, and you can then pay the storage at the same time as you pay your membership. If you there are two payments. There are two payments. Yes.
You get an invoice for your storage.
Yes. So you get an invoice for the storage. You get an invoice for your membership. If you want to renew it, pay it. If you don't want to renew it, either get your wood out or leave it back there, and we will distribute it, or either dumpster it, or we'll find a use for it. And that's it.
I've had some woodwork that I've thrown in the dumpster in the past, I can tell you. So good stuff. Thank you, Gary. We do want your input if you've got some ideas as to what you think we should be doing at the Guild that might involve either spending money, making money, something financial. We'd love to have your input. So reach out to me, reach out to Gary. Please do that. And volunteer to help as in all kinds of ways. So especially on the from the treasurer or managing storage or anything like that. We are always looking for people to help out. Chuck, what do you got in your table of goodies back there? I see some modern art that's been put together. It's a table base. Great. Got anything other noteworthy things back there for sale?
A circular saw blade sharpener.
Circular saw blade sharpener.
Guild projects.
Talk about helping with guild projects.
What's that?
Talk about helping with guild projects.
So guild projects, we do need help on the turf boxes. There are other guild projects that come along. If you see sign-ups for that, that's one of the reasons that the guild has always been so financially reasonable, because we have a lot of people that help out on projects. We've been doing it for years. The first reason we got an actual shop with equipment was because members took on projects and donated their time. So we still do that, and we still need that. We have other projects that are coming up that I know Jim Bainey's going to talk about a guild project when he comes up. So when you see those calls for volunteers, please consider joining. It's a great way to hang out with people. It's a great way to learn people, and maybe you can teach people as well. It's a great way to learn from others. Communications, Brian, do you have any announcement?
So last month, Ron made an appeal looking for somebody to help with the newsletter, and sadly he's at a breakdance competition tonight and won't be able to make it. But if you are out there and you are interested, Ron would really appreciate your help. Another big thing that's coming is in December, we will be changing the way we accept payments for classes. And you will possibly see a new name on your Sign Up Genius payment plan. We believe it's going to be called LumaPay, but we're still talking about whether that's what we're going to do. This will not affect membership, only classes. So there's no connection there. But if we make the change, it'll be December 1st. After that, we will no longer pay through PayPal. It will most likely be transparent to you, but you may see a different name on your bank statements. Okay?
Why? Because Sign Up Genius is killed PayPal. They won't accept PayPal.
So the company that we use for the class announcements and to gather the money basically said, wow, that's a lot of money coming through here. Why don't we do that ourselves? So it's coming. Thank you. And wish Ron luck at his breakdance competition.
I hope there's video of that. That would be amazing, and that would be worthy of an article in the newsletter as well. Yeah, no kidding. We would love to see Ron Hall breakdancing. Next on the list, Don Steele. Is Don here tonight? I know that we have magazines and books to sell. Brian is back there. Books are usually, these are great deals. There's some amazing books back there. Some of the old carving books I remember that I used to collect or try to hunt for when I first started getting into some carving. Also, check us out on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. We have a Facebook group. We have an Instagram page. So if you've got your work out there, if you have an Instagram account, if you post your work, copy the guild, tag the guild, hashtag, all that stuff. Check us out on Facebook. There's a group where we do questions and answers, engage with the community. You can also find us on Twitter, which I know we don't do a lot with that, but if you're a Twitterite and you want to get it going, we can engage the community. YouTube, don't forget to check out the videos, the podcast. There's some great videos out there on YouTube. I think I've recently caught up on a couple of them. The new format. I watched the podcast a couple weeks ago about social media and woodworking. So that was a pretty good one. It was pretty enlightening. Mike, you were in that video. So check out our YouTube channel. You can also catch up on meetings. There's some posts about some of our skill builders that we've had. So check us out there. Kevin, new podcast out. What you got? Do you have any new info about the podcast?
The latest podcast came out on Sunday, this past Sunday. Podcast and videos will always be released on Sundays, usually at 7 p.m. If you click the link and subscribe, ring the bell, you'll actually get a notification that when videos are released.
Awesome. Chris, while you've got the floor, you want to go over events and,
Yeah.
and some of the other things you want to talk about?
Yep. Okay. So I already talked a little bit about Santa's Workshop. That's coming up in November. Coming up this weekend, so October 22nd, we're going to L&K Hardwoods. If you guys haven't been out there, they're one of our sponsors. They came to, I think it was during one of the first COVID meetings we had. They came in and talked to us. They fell in love with the shop immediately and became a sponsor. They've been really good to us, but they're doing a Mill and Grill. It's part of their annual toy drive. So we ask you bring a toy. We're going to unwrapped toy. We're actually going to meet either at their place at 11 o'clock, or we'll have some people meeting here at 10 if you want to carpool, or we can all follow each other out there. They are a residential country road, so speed limit is strictly enforced on that. Katie's going to be cooking, grilling for us, and last time we were there was not disappointed by the food at all, anyone who was there. They're a really cool operation, so if you're interested in checking them out, come out Saturday from 11 to 2 is when it's scheduled, but they're pretty cool. They'll also hang out on the porch all day. I think they'd let you.
And I don't have my phone. They're supposed to have a brand new board sizer.
Okay,
That
so yeah,
from the Amish that he had remade.
yeah, so
It's
if you-
supposed to be ready by this weekend.
yeah, supposed to have a brand new board sizer, so that'd be interesting to watch and see. But yeah, Larry and Cammy, they're great people. And so come out this weekend, L&K, for the Mill and Grill, bring an unwrapped toy. So going back to Santa's Workshop, got some flyers. We will get the PDF of this up on the website, so you can,
It's there.
oh, it's up there? All right, cool. So if you want to print that out, post it at your work, pass it out to friends, family, social media, the more people we have come in, it's just a great time. Anyone who was here last year really enjoyed it. And to double up on Rich, please, we need some volunteers, especially for that Sunday. We want to make sure we get all those spots filled so we don't disappoint any little kids. And then I've talked about in the past, we all talked about volunteering, helping out. We can always use some help on AV stuff as well. So, and then let Kevin talk more on the podcast.
How's everybody doing tonight? This most recent podcast, Mike and Chris and I, Grace was feeling under the weather, but we were discussing the Guild, what it's done for us, and what we can do for the Guild. So give it a listen. There's a lot of good information there. I'm going to pass around a couple of clipboards. The first one is going to be for topics for the suggested topics for the podcast. So if you have something you'd like to hear us talk about, write it down. Give us an idea what you want to hear about. The second one I'm going to send around is about I'm trying to put together classes for next year. What kind of class do you want? Shortly after I took over, Joseph over there told me who he wanted to see, and we just finished a successful class with David Abil a couple of weeks ago, and everybody walked out of there with a good, nice chair. So I can't set up classes if you don't tell me what you want. And if you want a national name coming in, be prepared to pay, because with inflation and everything, it's not cheap anymore. But I am talking to Eric Pinter, who is John Wilson's partner, about getting him in one weekend next year to do the shaker boxes. and the tool class. So we haven't got that nailed down yet, but we're working on that. And other than that, give the podcast a listen if you haven't. And if you haven't, why not?
I agree. You should be listening to it. Yeah, the classes, if you all have an idea, please write down what you have there. We'd love to have your ideas. It really helps to focus. And then also, if you think you could teach a class, please volunteer. It's I can say from experience, teaching a class is a great experience. It actually helps you really up your game as well. I know that when I've taught classes, you know, I might go to my workshop at night and I can just kind of like scratch my head, do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. When you teach somebody, you really kind of have to have your stuff together. So it actually helps you grow as well as a woodworker.
Need volunteers for skill builders too.
Yeah, so skill builders, we didn't have a skill builder this month. We haven't had people stepping up to offer to teach things. I know some people have taught multiple skill builders, and we appreciate that. We need people to step up. There's something that you do well, something that you think is interesting. It could be, you know, there's so many aspects to woodworking, as we all know. So step up and offer to do a skill builder. It's only a 2-hour commitment, and really is great for the membership and the community because it's free to everybody. So we'd love to get you all involved there if you're willing. Look, heading back to the agenda, the next is Jim Berard. Jim, nothing. We have 923 members, and when does renewal open? Next month's meeting is when the. So, after next month's meeting, everyone will get an email the next day that renewals are out. And there, you all remember it's a discount to renewing early, and then if you don't renew by, is it March 1st next year? You're not a member anymore, and you have to take all the safety stuff again. So, just watch out for that, and you might as well join for the discount. We'd love to have you all stay, and all of you guys are going to be in it anyway. So let's just watch out for it and rejoin.
Yes.
What's that?
Can we pay it next month? Yes.
Can you pay next month's meeting? Yes. Yes, at next month's meeting you can renew. That's correct. Very true. Going down through, Matt, you want to talk about programs? So nothing to talk about now. I know December we have our Christmas dinner. Tonight we have Mike Taylor of Taylor Toolworks, which we're really looking forward to. So thank you, Mike, for being here. Safety orientation. Is Steve here tonight? No. Didn't see Steve, but I wanted to say the next safety orientation is scheduled for Sunday, November 13th. So if you're a member and you want access to the shop, you haven't had a chance to get in for the orientation. It's on the 13th. And
between here and there.
What's that?
Rough to readies are available between here and there. They're on
Good point. Rough to Ready is available as well, which is you can also use that as certification to be certified to use the shop equipment. Safety committee meetings are on the second Tuesday of the month at 7, and Steve wants to remind people we're looking for new blood for that committee. We're always looking for people. So if you're thinking you need to get involved, there's lots of ways to do it. Safety committee would be one way to do that. So Rough to Ready, Mike, you just talked about that. Sponsorship, Dwayne, is in the back. There's raffles. Go ahead, Dwayne.
First thing, if you don't have a blue door prize ticket, raise your hand. Keep them on up until Megan gets around and gives you the piece that you're going to throw, the ticket you're going to throw is going to be in this coffee can on the back here, so take care of that. Secondly, what you see out here is the last time you're going to see the shirts. Whatever's not sold tonight will be donated to someone. Then we've got the table, like always. So there's pieces out there that are good for you. The door prize, I have not heard what that is yet, but Mike brought it, and I understand that it'll be a winner no matter what. Again, now, does anyone not have a blue ticket? Okay, no crying.
When do we need to drop these off?
At the break is fine.
Okay, it's break. Take your hat.
Get Brian.
Mike, what do you have to say? Is the door prize?
I wanted to point out to everyone that we've got a sample of the white oak that was milled by L&K Hardwoods for the We Honor Veterans Project through Kansas City Hospice and Palliative Care. I believe Jim's also lobbying to get his hands on some of this white oak to do some work for Flourish Furnishings. But this is a piece I went ahead and milled up this last week to see what kind of shape it was in, and it's actually some pretty nice looking stuff. So if you go to the Mill and Grill at L&K this Saturday, be sure and thank Larry and Cammie for their work to help us produce this free lumber. So for those who aren't familiar with the story, Steve Erickson, one of our members, worked for Ryan Lawn and Tree, and as their participation in the National Arborists Association, they went in and did some work on trees in the National Cemetery in Leavenworth. One of the trees that they had to take down because of its condition was a white oak tree that's easily 120 years old, maybe older. It was a pretty good sized tree, and they cut it down. Steve contacted me, said, we got access to this if we want it. He actually went and picked it up on a Saturday and delivered it out to L&K. And then they hosted a mill and grill there several months back where all of that tree was milled up into lumber. Mike went out just this last week and picked up a couple hundred board feet of rough sawn white oak that we have stored on the racks over here. So at some point in time, I'm going to be putting out the call for volunteers to come in and help me mill this material to get it down into a condition where we can build flag boxes and ash urns out of it for that project. So we'll have information going out when we're ready to start doing that.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Mike. All right.
Real quick, for the mill and grill, tell them to bring their own chairs.
For the mill and grill, if you're coming, bring your own chairs. That's a good reminder. Thank you, Mike. One other thing for sponsorship, if you buy things on Amazon, remember, if you go to smile.amazon.com, you can see the number there. You can also do a search for your charity being Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. We get 1% of your purchase comes back to the guild. So it doesn't cost anything. Amazon does it as charitable. So remember that. That helps the guild a little bit. And we've been doing this for a couple of years, and I think the guild has gotten over $1,000. So, it's starting to add up, Certainly nothing wrong with getting $1,000, right? And if we all did it, we could do a little bit more. So, Kevin, do you have anything else to say about training? Anything? Have you come on back up?
Sorry, I forgot. I was going to announce when, for next year, the first session of basic woodworking, intermediate woodworking, and the hand tool basics class. Those will be posted on the first day of November, which on the first Tuesday in November, which happens to be November 1st. And it'll just be for the first session. We're going to wait on posting the second session until a little bit further on because we had ended up with several cancellations. People signed up at the beginning of the year, and then by the time their class came around, they had other things to do. So we're going to split them up on when we post them so that hopefully eliminate that problem.
Okay. Thank you. All right. A couple other things on the agenda before we get to show and tell. The SIGs, which are special interest groups, Hand Tool SIG meets the fourth Sunday of the month from 2 to 4. Rob, do you have any announcements?
We're gonna talk about, card scrapers and scraper planes.
So the topic is about card scrapers and scraper planes. How many of you all have ever tried to sharpen a card scraper and wasn't successful? Okay, almost everybody's raised their hands. I think I get it right about maybe. I still probably miss it about a third of the time when I. Yeah, yes, you can. It's hard to roll the burr on a belt sander. I will say. Wood Carvers meets the fourth Tuesday of the month from 6 to 9. Fred, do you have an announcement? Okay, and bring your projects, traditional carving, power carving, any type of carving. Yep, if you're new, got people to help you out. It's a good place to learn. Laser engraving, Mike?
We're gonna have a Thanksgiving project.
So there'll be a Thanksgiving project, and the Laser Engraver SIG is fourth Wednesday of the month at 7. So sounds exciting. Turkeys and pumpkins and things like that. All right, Scroll Saw SIG. John, I know you're here. Do you have announcements? George? No announcements, but the SIG meets for Scroll Saws second Wednesday of the month at 7. So come down if you're interested in scrolling. These are the guys that can help you out. Last SIG is the CNC group. They meets the third Tuesday of the month from 6:30 to 7. Any announcements, Gary, on the CNC group? So no announcements. Yeah, come on out if you're interested in CNC woodworking. Great. So we're going to come to what many weeks is my favorite time. We've got Jim Bainey coming up. We've got show and tell. We've got some nice looking projects over there. So if you've got a show and tell project, go over and kind of line up to come and talk about your work. Jim, good to see you as always.
So, a lot of you know that I'm a volunteer my time over at a place called Flourish Furnishings, which is a furniture bank. And we acquire all kinds of used furniture and basically redistribute it to people in need. I got involved with this 7-8 months ago, and I went back and they have a shop area back there where we repair a bunch of old what furniture that needs to be repaired that can be fixed up. So lo and behold, they asked me if I would modify some tables, and I got a couple, John Johnson and Mike Erickson, or Steve Erickson and Mike Erickson, and Ron Jones, Mike Jones. We went in and basically remodeled a bunch of tables. I think we did 26 of them all told. And we made them basically into single tables. They were single tables. We made some doubles, but most of them we made single tables out of it, which they have a dire need for. So I was talking to the people there, and they said, "Can you get us any more?" And I said, "Wow, maybe I can get the guild involved in building some tables. What they desperately need is single tables, size 36 by 36, 32 by 32 tables. They get all kinds of big table suites for families of 5, 6, 8, 10 people, but they have a real dire need for single tables, and probably half of the people that come through there are single or a married couple. So I made a proposal to the board that we start a teaching vehicle to basically build a bunch of tables. We're going to do it. Can you bring up those 3 slides? We're going to do it with plywood tops. I'm going to teach you how to not sand through the veneer, because I've had a lot of experience at that. And basically there are 4 parts to a table. There's the top, the plywood top, the banding around it, the apron, and the legs. I put that particular table together using my domino. I tapered the legs. Then Mike Jones talked me into using Odie's oil for a finish, and boy, I mean, it's a one-stop finish. Anyway, we're going to start. We have an abundance of that white oak over there, and so we're gonna use some of that white oak to build the tables. We're going to do it as a teaching vehicle, starting probably after maybe before the middle of the next month, but during next month. And I'm going to basically teach you how I build tables. Not that my approach is any better than anybody else's, but if you got another idea how to do it, I'm all ears. We're going to start building 4 tables, and we're going to go from there. Hopefully we can build maybe 20, maybe 30 tables all told. We're going to do this probably starting on a weekend. If you're so inclined to take the parts home and build them in your shop, I'm all for it. But for those people that want to learn how to build a table, I'll put out a email over the net, and we'll get started. Any questions about that? So we're looking for volunteers. It's a great give back to the community, and Flourish has a dire need for them. So I built. We're going to do it here, which means I'm going to have to get a green card. Can I buy my way through that?
You can take the rest already. I'll teach you.
I don't know if I can pass that. Anyway, so I'm sorry? All right, yeah, that's probably what I need to do, start from the beginning, huh? So, okay, so let's start with show and tell. If anybody got any questions or see me during the break, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it.
This is a yarn bowl for putting a ball of yarn in there. Then you just take the thread, put it through here, zip. That way when you pull on it, it bounces around inside of here instead of bouncing around on the floor. And the wood is hackberry, spalted hackberry on a poplar bottom. I scroll sawed, with George's help, I scroll sawed these locust leaves in there that I designed. So you could actually put a candle inside of there and use it as a luminary too, I suppose. Shellac finish.
Shellac finish, okay. So is your wife a knitter?
Oh yeah, big time.
Okay. Yeah. So this is 6-sided?
8.
8-sided, so how did you glue that together? What was the process?
Well, 22.5 degrees, and I splined every, I don't know if you can see it.
What you see up there is what's being broadcast.
Okay. I splined each joint, and then I also, for a little bit extra strength, as I put dowels up into there all around here. So just in case somebody drops it, it's less likely to break. Otherwise, glue doesn't hold that well by itself a lot of times.
So when you glued this together, did you use tape? Put it in a tape?
No, I use bands.
Okay.
Yeah, just put 2 bands, one at the top, one at the bottom, and just pull it together.
Spalted hackberry, that's There's some really neat stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen some countertops made out of spalter. It's gorgeous.
If you go to some of the places where you buy it, it is pricey stuff.
yeah.
Today. Oh my God. And it's so easy to make. Just leave it sitting around and getting wet for a while. I mean, spalted wood is rotten wood, you know. So, and these will be, I have a dozen of these. I got these set up for it's the weekend before Thanksgiving, which is the same weekend as ours is, except our show, if you want to see a really extremely well-run show, in the past we've sold as much as $65,000 in a 12-hour show out on Johnson Drive. It's called Creative Hand, put on by the Fiber Guild and the Weavers Guild. These ladies really know how to put on a show. If you want to see something extremely well organized, come out on Friday, because Saturday you're going to be here. Another really well organized show right here that we have, Saturday and Sunday, for Santa's Workshop. So you can do both. And if I have any left over, maybe I'll put one in the guild thing here.
Okay.
I hope to sell them all. I don't want to bring them home.
Where is it again on Johnson Drive?
On Johnson Drive at Old Shawneetown. Yeah. I used to go for lunch down to, I used to be able to go to the Polish place over there, but he's closed now. Bilski's. So I got to find another place to go eat lunch. Anybody else have a question? I thought, nope. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Nice job. Okay, Les.
Okay, well, when I was thinking about coming up here this month, I was trying to think of something to bring, and I threw this in the car, and then it dawned on me halfway up here, this was on an online deal. So how many of you seen it? None of you?
I did.
Okay, well, I feel better then. Anyway, I acquired a bunch of fishing reels when my father-in-law passed away, and I was cleaning them and selling them, and a lot of them were Zebco 404s. And I was sitting there one day, and I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, I could make one of these. So that's how this got started, and I kept thinking like I always do. I kept making it in my head, trying to figure out what to do. And then I started. It's out of mahogany. I made all the brass parts, too. I made all the brass parts. They're all made by hand, shaped by hand and everything else. I took one of the 404s and I cut the threaded parts off and used those inside this because these reels have a notch to set in that has to be just perfect, and I didn't want to mess with trying to do that, so I just cut those off and used those inside there. The inside looks as nice as the outside. It does work, not as good as I'd like, and I haven't had time to mess with it since then, but I think I know what's wrong with it. Oh, the hardest part right here, this is a piece of ebony, and trying to get this to work was where I spent most of my time. I started out with a piece of 1/2-inch MDF, put it in the slot to see what I had to cut away, what I had to do, and I finally decided I had it figured out. So then I went to a piece of 3/4 MDF and did the same thing, and I'm thinking, okay, so then I cut it out of ebony, and I still had to work on it a little bit to get it to work, but I finally got it to where it operates and it casts, but like I say, not as quite as well as I would like for it to.
You caught any fish with this?
Pardon?
Have you caught any fish with this?
Once. Like I say, it casts, but not as good as I would like for it to, and I haven't had the opportunity to work on it some more and see if I can fix that problem.
What kind of fish did you catch?
But
what kind of fish did you catch?
I didn't catch any with this yet.
Okay.
It was really cold and windy the day I went out.
So you've tried it once?
I did try it once, just to see if it would cast.
You got way too much time on your hands.
Well, this was during the pandemic. I didn't have much else to do.
You want to talk about anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
You sure?
I'm good. First time in 43 years. Okay? I had a half a second of stupid. Hadn't been doing any woodworking for a while, and I was working on the house, ripping some 2x4s. And to be honest with you, I don't know what happened. It happened so fast. It just like, bong, and you're done. But it happens, so just be careful, I guess. Table saw, yeah. The only other time I've hurt myself was with this thumb, and that was on a table saw when I was 20 years old. So.
Questions about is real.
You can have an accident anytime. Yeah.
Okay, how did you do the banding, the inlay banding?
That's just a banding that I bought.
Okay, so then
and I turned a slot for it to fit in, so it would be flush. And then I very, very carefully heated it and started bending it until I got it to where it would go pretty much around there. Then I just glued it on, and I took a rubber band that fit it tight and glued it in that way. Yep.
I was going to ask about the banding too.
Yeah,
Any other questions? Way too much time on your hands. Jeez.
I have been offered a lot of money for it.
Who's next?
Just a box. Any questions? So my friend of my daughter's asked for a box of a specific size and all that, and so I just did nothing too special about it. I mean, just did a Kamiko top and a little shaping, and that's about it. But it's pretty simple project. Finished in shellac and wax. That's about it. The Kamiko was pretty much all table saw. And all, and it looks a little complicated, but it's really, there are about 3 pieces that you have to make in there. One of them, you have to make 80 of them, but it's actually very much simpler than it looks.
So what procedure do you use to cut these thin strips?
Table saw.
Yeah, but how do you do that on the table saw?
I do it with the rip fence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you do it inside the rip fence or outside the rip fence?
I do it inside.
Have you seen Woodpecker's thin strip cutting guide?
Yeah, I've got a unisaw, and I don't think my fence.
It'll work.
It'll work, but when you start talking about doing, 50 or 60 strips, all exactly the same, I can do that in nothing with a good push stick, sacrificial push stick. I've got no problem pushing it through.
Okay.
Between.
So do you run it through a drum sander or after that, or comes right off the saw?
Straight off the saw. Straight off the saw.
And this is maple?
That is basswood.
Okay. Questions?
Woodworker 2, forced.
40 tooth?
Yeah. Yep.
So when you do the half laps that joints together, are you doing the half lap on the table saw also?
Yes. Yes.
The Woodworker 2 also?
Yeah.
Is that giving you the flat top?
No, I do not have a flat top. They're all hidden. Okay. And so that's, I just use the top, the shape that comes off it. I do all the miters are done by hand using basically shooting boards.
I can see the miters, but it's really tough to pick out the joints. They're so tight.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's the key is sizing your strips and getting those. If I would use the Woodpeckers thing, I would have probably a little bit of difference, and you'd have to adjust for that.
Have you seen that tool?
I've seen it. Yeah, I've tried cutting strips on the outside of the rip fence, and I have not had real good luck getting the consistency that I like and need. So
I'm just really wary of doing it inside.
it's if you have a nice long push
I got
block.
a couple bruises here from kickbacks. Yeah.
Yeah.
It only goes halfway in instead of all the way through.
Yeah.
How did you finish the basswood? Did you wax it too?
No, it is unfinished.
Okay.
So it is prone to dirt and debris. I'll just warn the person that gets it about that. Generally, I have not finished any kumiko, and generally it is not finished. And I've been a little afraid to try it because I think it'd be a good way to probably ruin it, just with all the corners and little pieces. And then you glue this together, and I use white glue because it dries clear. And how many glue spots you would find if you put a finish on this, I have no idea, but I bet there'd be a lot of them. So.
Any other questions?
Wayne, how do you cut the half laps? Is that a gang cutting process? I mean, those are small pieces. I'm not familiar with the.
Repeat the question.
Yeah.
They can't hear.
Yeah, how do I cut the half laps? I'll use the jig that I use is simply a board with an 1/8 inch prong out, and I'll do it on with the sled, table saw sled, and I'll just clamp that where I want it, make all the cuts, move it, make all the other cuts, and generally you're starting out. If you look at the main piece here, you start out with it a little longer. You I start in the middle, cut that, and then reference the middle for all the other cuts. And so you can keep your fingers pretty far away from it. You can do the gang where you make all those cuts on a wide board and then rip it, or you can do it the other way. I think that's what I did, because there are 80 of them, and I actually had a longer board and made like three sets of the yeah.
Are you using the miter blocks that Activation introduces to when you came and taught the class on Kumiko, or are you actually making machine moves?
I'm using for the miters. I use those, yes, but for the miters, I actually use it's a more of a shooting board. It's a holder for a block plane, and that just because that is sometimes faster if you need to do a quick adjustment, and it was a little easier. I have a bigger area in which to fasten, because I've got a reference. I've got to make the same. I've got to keep the middle in the middle, and I've got to cut the miters on each end. So I actually need something that makes that stay perfectly in the center. So, and that's a little hard with Mike Pekovich's blocks, because there isn't really anything. I'm sure you could figure something out, but it was easier with the other. So.
Any other questions?
Wayne, Greg on YouTube wants to know, what is the rest of the wood on the sides?
Sapele.
And what'd you put on? Is it flocked in the center, or an
What's
inside?
that?
Is it the inside flocked, or?
No, the inside is velvet. Just a blue velvet on. It's just on paper. The corrugate, not the corrugated.
How did you make this radius?
I did. I faceted it. So I did hand plane, couple facets.
Okay.
And then I made a template and that I could follow and see if I'm fairly consistent, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Didn't take very long.
Awesome job.
Thanks. Anything
You're
else?
another one that's got way too much time on your hands.
Ah.
Thanks for bringing that in. All right, who's next?
I'm Mike Thomas. It's been a while. I'm a member of the guild and also a member of the Turners, and it's been a long time since I've been to a meeting, but I thought, I'm going to come out tonight. Anyway, I turn stuff, and this was a bowl I did a few months ago that I saw an interactive remote demonstration by a guy named Todd Raines in Austin, Texas, and he did a bowl in a bowl out of a solid piece of wood. And he said he was going to try a bowl in a bowl in a bowl. And I thought, I can do that. So I looked around. There's a piece of Bradford pear that came out of the backyard. And so followed his instructions. And about 90% of the time it takes to do this is making a semicircle or a hemispherical shape so that when you, otherwise, you're going to have the widths of the rim going to be different, and it's not going to look right. So anyway, I did that, and then it's just a matter of off-center turning. You just had it on a tenon and chuck, and I just cocked it one way, then the other.
That's how you got the bias on these two?
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, like I said, that was quick and easy to do. And then the finish on it is just China oil. Same thing. I make it myself. It's not unlike Danish oil where you use the linseed oil. I use tung oil because it seems to polymerize better, and it keeps the wood a little bit lighter than the linseed oil does. So.
Really smooth. Wow.
Well, thank
you. You need to run your fingers through this when it's over there during break. This is a finish that's awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Talk about, this is a salt shaker?
Yeah, well, it's a combination pepper mill and salt shaker. I call it an all-in-one tabletop food seasoning system, or a shaker mill for short. But I make a bunch of these. And this one, okay, made one for my daughter and son-in-law, and their black lab really liked it. And so I need to make another one. And I was just digging through my shop, and I found this is a ratty piece of cherry, and I thought, ew. Well, I was going to do this with a friend and teach them how to make these. And so I kept the really nice piece of cherry for, actually for Ann, and it was kind of funny because I turned this one, and as I got into it, I found it was a burl. And I thought, whoa, that's really nice. So I use a crush grind mechanism, so you pull that off to fill it, pull hard. Like that.
Oh.
And then you just fill it with peppercorns there. Adjustment is on the bottom, and I like that so that you can, you haven't got that adjustment rod coming up through the top. So that just, pushes back on there. But I've made, gosh, over 100 of these.
Wow. And you've given them all away?
I've done some on consignment for some people that really want them, and I made them. But a lot of times it's just family and friends, wedding gifts, Christmas gifts and birthday gifts.
I know what you mean. I get invited to weddings just so will you make something for me?
Bring it. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it's fun. I enjoyed it. And I was really pleasantly surprised at how pretty this piece of wood was, because honestly, I thought it was going to go into my burn pile, but I'm glad I didn't. Thanks.
Questions?
Where do you get the mechanism?
Chefware kits online. You can get it from Craft Supplies, Packard Woodworking. There's a lot of places that carry these. But like I said, it's a ceramic mechanism, and the adjustment is really, these things last forever. They are guaranteed for life, so that you can grind, anything with it. Salt. Even had a friend who wanted to grind some turquoise, for inlaying, and put turquoise in there and ground it up and everything. It was fine. Didn't bother it a bit. So, yeah. Maybe not the outside, not the wood part, but this was a 11-month-old black lab that just chews on everything, and boy, just destroyed that pepper mill. Anyway.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Certainly.
Nice.
Thanks.
We got one more, and then John will get you.
Put it on the other side of the bench if you can. Yes.
Louis Armstrong. My wife decided that her niece was getting married here in September, and she wanted me to make him a keepsake box. So I dug around in my shop and found some pieces of walnut that were appropriate. In other words, they're big enough. Most of what I have is too small. But
You got to speak up a little bit. You're
okay. Speak louder, I guess? All right. Okay, I don't usually speak loudly. Anyway, it was a pretty simple box to build. The wood itself turned out to be very nice. It had a nice grain pattern in through here in particular. But it's the usual. You build a box, you cut it apart.
So this is a wedding present?
Yes.
Okay. I take it for...
Maeve and Aaron.
Okay. What'd you finish it with?
I started out with shellac and a couple of coats of that, and then a couple of coats of lacquer on top of that.
Okay. Yeah.
Why don't you turn that corner that's facing me, turn it so that it faces the camera, and you guys can see how, no, the other way. So you can see how that grain follows the corner. It's really cool. You know, from this angle here, that's really great. Look at it.
Well, it wasn't built that way, but it just happened to look out. Yeah, I have built four-sided boxes, but where the grain continues all the way around. But this wasn't it. In fact, I had a couple of side pieces that I'd made for another box that were a half-inch too short, and a top that I'd made for it. It was the length it was supposed to be, so I had to cut the length of the top down and come up with more wood for the ends and glue together a couple of pieces for the bottom.
Questions? Thank you for bringing that in.
All right.
Somebody's going to be really fortunate to get that for a...
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to go to the wedding, but send this.
Good. You get another one that you get invited to weddings if you make something for them. Yeah. Okay, John.
Do we have the, I have nothing to show you in person here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this piece, mid-century modern, was one of several photographs that was sent to me by our older daughter in Chicago and said, can you make this? And I said, okay. And Chris, the next one. So there's the product that I made, and it was installed just last month. I wasn't here at the last month's meeting because of the trip to Chicago, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And next, Chris. Yeah, that one's sideways, but nonetheless, it was a box, 3-stage glue up. Go ahead, Chris. They're all sideways. So the top's on the left there, and the grain is waterfall or continuous, and the sides and top are solid cherry, and the drawer dividers on the bottom are birch plywood. Next. After I made the box, I made the drawer fronts. Go ahead, Chris. And then I gave the specifications to Ed Stewart, and Ed was able to CNC the recesses for drawer pulls in the front of the drawers. And that was prior to the drawers themselves being assembled, obviously. And then he made these trim rings that were going to go around those recesses you just saw. made them in a cookie sheet like this, and we flipped this over, ran it through the grizzly sander, and each of the individual trim rings just fell out like donuts. So it was pretty cool.
Sanded from the backside.
Sanded from the backside, yeah. And here they are applied to the recesses. Go ahead. There's the finished piece with legs attached. The legs were also done by Ed on the CNC for me. Tapered legs, yep. And here's a little bit dark view of the underside of the cabinet, showing the attachment of the leg to the
How did
bottom
you
piece.
attach those?
Good question, Jim. Next slide, right there.
Oh.
So I
Okay.
had dominoes into the top of the leg as well as a hanger bolt, and the legs are not glued on, but I was amazed at how stable they were once I stuffed those dominoes through and then cinched up the nut on the hanger bolt. The piece is anchored to the wall in Chicago because it is a little bit top heavy, but it's not unstable at all. So there it is again in finished or unfinished form. Go ahead, Chris. There's another view.
What'd you finish
in
it with?
Chicago. I did a wash coat of shellac and then a dark brown trans tint dye over the shellac, and I used the shellac for elimination of blotchiness. And then after the dye dried, I just simply water-based spray coated it. General Finishes Enduro Poly. About 5 coats of that. That's just another view of the corners. The corners, every joint on this darn thing that I can think of was dominoed, and that includes the miters. Go ahead, Chris. This is a close-up view of the trim rings on the drawer pulls. Came out very nice. And everything was solid except for, go back to that one if you can, Chris. Down to the bottom, you might notice that piece, the bottom strip is wider than the other. It's that and the center strip between the drawers are the only two pieces that are not integral to the structure. In other words, they're basically banded pieces on the front. The bottom piece is tapers down to a greater thickness of 1 1/4 versus everything else being 7/8 of an inch thick. Next. Speaking of finishing, I thought, now how am I going to do those dovetails without making a mess on the side of the drawers? Because I didn't want to dye the whole drawer. The boxes are maple, except for the back of the drawer is walnut. I just had some scrap walnut around, so 3 species of wood in the drawer, actually 4 if you count the bottom. But the end grain of the dovetails there, which I did with our lead jig, the whole project was made here. I don't have a shop, so I made it all here, and I used all of our equipment, and including the lead jig, the D4R, the newer one of the 2 we have back there, and didn't have to dye the dovetails on the end grain there, but they match pretty well with the color of the faces that I did dye. Next. There it is again. That's a slide we started with. That's it.
Questions? Awesome project. Wow. Thanks for showing that.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks everybody bringing their projects. Great stuff. So your door prize, make sure you take half of your ticket and go back and put it in. When we're done with our break, we'll announce the door prize at the same time of the raffle. If you want to get in the raffle, there's a great shot. So we're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back in 8 minutes or so, and we're excited. We have Mike with Taylor Toolworks coming back. So grab a snack and go to the raffle, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Hello, my name is Rick Chandler, and welcome to another of the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild's ongoing series of machine safety videos. Our discussion today will cover your introduction to the safety rules and requirements of the various bandsaws owned by the Guild and how to safely operate these popular pieces of equipment. Keep in mind that this video is meant to cover the safety concerns of this machine and not a complete training program for the use of the bandsaw. When in the shop, please direct any questions about using these or any other machines to the on-duty shop foreman. He or she is there to act as your main resource to help keep you safe and to provide advice and assisting you to successfully complete your project. You should always remember, the most important of safety concerns is to wear OSHA-approved safety glasses with side shields at all times while in the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild shops. Your regular glasses are not approved for use when participating in any shop activity while you're at the Guild. When using any of our bandsaws, it is doubtful that the noise level would necessitate hearing protection, but if you feel more comfortable wearing earplugs or earmuffs, by all means do so. One caution on hearing protection though, Guild rules stipulate that any hearing protection may not have the ability to receive any type of broadcast music or podcasts. Failure to follow this requirement may result in losing your shop privileges. The bandsaw has a thin blade in the form of a continuous loop. It is useful for cutting curves, resawing, and cutting thick material. Before turning on the bandsaw, make sure that the blade tension lever is in the on position and that the blade tracks with the gullets tracking in the center of the tires when you rotate the wheels by hand. The teeth of the bandsaw blade should be pointing down toward the cutting surface of the saw. The blade should be 1/32 of an inch from the roller bearing guide behind the blade. There are guides both above and below the saw table, and both should be checked for proper adjustment. Side guide bearings or blocks should also be adjusted to 1/32 of an inch away from the sides of the blade and should be behind the teeth on the blade. If you aren't sure what the tolerances are or how to set them, check with the shop foreman, and they can help you the first time you're going through the process. Make sure that the upper and lower wheel guard doors are closed and latched before you turn on the bandsaw. Set the upper guide as low as possible to your workpiece without touching the wood you're going to cut. This guarantees that the blade is completely covered without room for a finger to accidentally slip under the guide. The maximum distance for the guide to be above the stock should not exceed 1/4 of an inch or as low as possible if you need to clear a fence mounted on the bandsaw. Any bystanders should be instructed to remain away from the right-hand area of the saw and not be closer than 24 inches from you while you're operating the saw. It is especially important to keep any bystanders away from the right-hand side of the bandsaw. Broken blades have a tendency to fly out to the right and may cause very serious injury to bystanders standing on the right side of the machine. To power up the bandsaw, ensure that all doors and covers are in place and latched. Then, first turn on the dust collector that attached to your saw, and once the dust collector is on, power up the bandsaw, first making sure that there are no objects touching the mounted blade. Make sure that the equipment has reached full speed before you approach the machine to begin cutting your material. Also remember, the 3-inch rule always applies. That is a 3-inch buffer on all sides of the blade. Your fingers, hands, and other body parts should never be allowed to become closer than 3 inches away from a moving part of the machine. It is also important that you not be wearing jewelry or loose clothing. If you have long hair, be sure that it's tied back so that there's no possibility of coming loose and making contact with any moving part of the machine. Never open any covers of a machine while it is running or start a machine before any and all covers have been properly secured. Keep your fingers and hands away from the path of the blade. Never use your thumbs to push your workpiece toward the blade, even if you're pushing from many inches away. Hidden voids in your material may suddenly cause the wood to jump forward through the blade at seeming lightning speed, causing serious injury or amputation. When you're cutting small or short stock, use push sticks, feather boards, or other appropriate safety devices to control the workpiece as you make your cut. Do not force a cut. Allow the blade to dictate the rate of cutting. Forcing a cut can and will probably break the blade on the bandsaw. Don't cut stock that is not flat on the bottom without holding it in an appropriate jig. As an example, when cutting cylindrical objects, you should use a V-block as we're demonstrating here. When working with long or cumbersome material, set up a roller stand to support your work as it enters and leaves the saw. It can become impossible to support these materials without the help of some kind of support system. When making cuts with the table at an angle, clamp a block to the table to keep your stock from slipping off. While resawing wood, it is okay to start your cut when standing on the infeed side of the blade, then letting go of your workpiece, circling around the machine to the outfeed side of the table, then pulling your material through the blade. Again, make sure you are drawing the wood through the bandsaw only as fast as the saw is able to handle the cutting the stock. If you're not cutting all the way through your stock, don't back the stock away from the blade without turning the machine off first. Turn the machine off and wait for the blade to come to a complete stop before backing out of a cut. If you're making curve cuts, you should plan your cut to prevent twisting or binding on the blade. Also, plan on where you will need to use push sticks or where it may be necessary to install a fence to keep you and others safe while cutting your stock. Each blade width has a minimum radius that is able to cut. We have charts posted on or near each bandsaw that show the minimum radius that a particular blade width can cut. If the blade does break, shut the machine off and stand clear until everything stops. Once the machine is stopped, unplug the saw from its power source and immediately notify the foreman on duty. They will assist you in changing the blade and getting the machine up and running properly again. You should never stick an object into the blade to stop the machine. Let it stop on its own or use the brake if the saw has one. The bandsaw produces a very fine sawdust, and this is sometimes not all captured by the attached dust collector. Dust depositing on the floor around the machine can cause the floor to become extremely slick and creates a significant fall risk. Pay attention to this and sweep or vacuum the floor when necessary. Don't be responsible for yours or someone else's fall injury. When finished using the machine, turn off the bandsaw and wait for the blade to come to a complete stop. Turn off the dust collector, check inside the machine and vacuum out any dust. Take a few extra moments to clean up the rest of the machine and the floor around where you've been working. This is Rick Chandler for the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. Thanks for watching and be safe.
Then 0. Last three numbers for the saw stop hat is 752. Last three numbers for the clampets from Rockler, I think that's how you say it, 789. Clampets part 2, but smaller. Last three numbers is 730. For the universal fence clamps, last three numbers are 746. Last three numbers for the deluxe hold down clamps, I think that's what they're called, is 793. Last three numbers for the cabinet latches, I think, is 762. If any of those are your numbers, come get them, otherwise they're going back into the hole.
Yeah, let's do the door prizes now. All right, drum roll.
All right, so the number for the door prize, all of the numbers this time is 7763171. If that is your ticket, collect it, please. Last three numbers for it is 371. If those are your numbers, collect it. That's for you.
All done? Awesome. Congrats to all the lucky winners. Well, we're going to get started here. Very excited to have Mike Taylor here, Taylor Toolworks. He's out of Columbia. I'll let him tell him more about himself. Taylor Toolworks has been a guild sponsor for at least a couple of years. I'm very excited about seeing his tools. A lot of these tools are stuff that I use all the time. So without further ado, here you go.
Can you hear me yet? You can hear me? So it's nice to be here.
Hey guys, come on, wrap it up, guys.
I'm just down the road, I'm pretty close, so it's not too far. And I've been here, I think I came here the last time they had a Lee Nielsen tool event. That's the last time I've come. I came to a couple classes years ago, but it's been a while. That's what, 10 years ago when the last time Lee Nielsen came around. So I've really been impressed by the guild, by what you guys do and what you offer. I think it's amazing that you would have a space where people can make things, because that's something I think that so many people miss. They don't have the opportunity to do that. And for me, I've just been making things my whole life, so. And I was thinking the other day, like, why do I make things? Like, why do we make things? And it's like, we have needs. I always say we have needs that needs to be met. I need a cabinet or something, or a chair made or whatever. But I think in some ways, I can't help it. I just make things because I just can. And so my whole life I've been doing that. So I got my training, obviously, in back when I was, a lot of us, in woodshop, high school, junior high woodshop. I got introduced to woodworking and fell in love with it. And I guess when I graduated from high school, I just thought I could build anything. So I started a company thinking I could make it, and we completely failed. Me and my brother, that was the first company we started. Completely failed. We lasted about 5 years. We made things that sell well today, like cutting boards with exotic woods and all this stuff. We couldn't sell it back then. Now, you can sell it for 10 times what we were selling it for. But so that was our first foray into entrepreneurship, and I was convinced I'd never want to do that again. So I went to school, got a degree in occupational therapy, and I actually did that for 22 years. And that was a really good fit for me, because I don't know if you guys know what OT is, but we just made things, we modified things, we built things. I did this constantly during my days, and I would build a lot of things in my shop that I use with my patients, and it was really fulfilling, and I just was fit. I was just wired to be an OT, because I could build things, I had ideas, and I had access to a shop in my garage and I could build things. So, but it was while I was doing that I don't know why, I think I moved into a new house. I started selling tools. I just thought, I did my first, I bought some tools for my gauging. I remember I put my first PO into gauging, this exact square, not this exact square, but this same square and a ruler. And I started selling it on eBay, $500. And I sold it, all the tools, and I thought, I'll do that again. And then the next thing you know, I'm still working full time as an OT, by the way. They were delivering pallets to my house, dropping them off in the driveway, and I'm like, what is happening? And it just kept growing and growing, and I really didn't try to build a business. It just happened. It just was there, and it just worked. But so kind of my philosophy, and I think this carries through to today, is that, when you buy tools, there can get there's a wide range, right? I can get a Harbor Freight item, or I can get a Holte plane, And so there's this big gap, and so I was like, I tried the Harbor Freight stuff, and it doesn't work well, but I couldn't afford the other one, so I thought, there's got to be a place in the middle, like fair quality, good price, not the best quality, but good enough that I would buy, so I could buy a Mercedes, or I can buy a Neon, but what do we most of us buy? We buy a camera, we buy the middle of the road that's good quality, good price, it's going to work. It's not the very best, but it's there. So that kind of carries through to today, where we try to find tools, and I look really hard for tools that are in the middle. And I guess my phrase is like tools for the rest of us. I mean, that's where most of us live. And so that's kind of our customer base, I think, is that. And so that's what I try to do. I also try, we work with about 100 different manufacturers now, different people around the world. Not everybody, but we have a good handful that we work really closely with. And so what I'm gonna do tonight is mainly tell you stories about how tools have come to the market, kind of what happens behind the scenes from my standpoint and how we work, we collaborate. All the people that are in the Europe, they always use the word collaboration. They're like, we want to start a collaboration. I'm like, it's not, they don't want to sell to us, they don't want, and I don't want us to buy from them. They want to work together. So we try to find ways where we can work together, and I can give them ideas, and they can make things for me, and then we can kind of build on each other's skills. So, and I'll tell you a great story about some Nerix chisels that have come to market because of a collaboration between us and them. So we try to work with our manufacturers. We work very closely with our manufacturers. I know a lot of them by name, met their kids, I've been to their house. I mean, we work together, and they come visit us, and we go visit them. And these visits are really good because you could do a Zoom call and you can talk on the phone, but when you sit together in a room together and you talk for a day, you throw ideas around, things come up that wouldn't come up otherwise. So, and so another thing that I do that's different is 2020, so I started a company in like 2010-ish, real small, and then my brother brought him on as operations manager to kind of help with the day-to-day stuff, because that's what I hate, dealing with, just ordering stuff and shipping it out and all that kind of stuff. That's not my thing. But about 2020, right before the pandemic hit, we started working with some influencers on YouTube. Jonathan Katz-Moses was one. James Wright does some stuff. He's good. Jay Bates, a lot of the big names. I mean, I didn't know this. I just approach people and go, hey, you want to work together? And I didn't realize that they were a big name in YouTube and that they were, I don't know. So we started working together with these YouTube influencers. And so once again, I didn't look at it as like, okay, here's my tool and promote it. I would actually feed them, build ideas, and write the whole script. And so I was kind of like a ghostwriter for YouTube stuff. And so like I had some bench hardware that I was like, I need to sell this bench hardware, but I don't just want to like sell it. So I designed a little portable workbench, and Tamar from 3x3 Custom, wonderful lady, she's really talented. She did it, and she did a video of it. And so she got a bunch of views, and we sold a bunch of stuff, and she sold a bunch of plans, and the customers got a great project, and they got stuff, so everybody wins. So I try to collaborate. That's what I try to do. I try to work together with folks. So to me, that works the best. So and there's some things that kind of motivate me to make a product. And one of them is when I see an overpriced tool that everybody recommends, and everybody thinks the new woodworkers go, I got to have that to be a good woodworker. Like the new Concepts coping saw. I mean, everybody needs a coping saw, right? We all use a coping saw, especially if you dovetail. You could buy this one at the home center for $10, $20, and it works. It's fine. You can get the blade kind of tight, but not much. It bends a lot. So then they start coming out with these new Concept saws, and what are they, $180? I mean, we sell them, I know, but I don't push them. But so everybody thinks, oh, I gotta have this coping saw, $180, and so everybody's buying them, and I'm like. So I was like, I got mad. I'm like, this is wrong that people think they need to have a coping saw that costs $180. So we developed a kit. And that's what this whole table is. This is just kits we sell. We sell all the parts. You just add wood. That's what these examples are. So I know that you can buy a bow saw. There's tools for working wood saws, a bow saw kit. So I made a little kit for a coping saw. And it didn't take me long, a couple of weeks. And I had it designed and ordered the parts. You get all the parts in the handle, and you just make it. And you can get this blade so tight. I mean, it's like a rock. You can't even bend it. It just sings. You can just, you can make it tweak. And this saw works 5 times better than this saw. The kit's like $15. You can make it in 2 hours. And so what we've done is we've taken what people think they need, and I provide something that's of value. And then you can actually make something that you can keep. It will be an heirloom. This will be passed down. And it works better than this. And it's lighter. And they always go, this is so light. And I'm like, but this is like ounces less. So it's light, and it works. And so that's what gets me going. So when when I see things like this, I do it. And the same with the Mox and Vise kit. You can buy a Mox and Vise kit from Benchcrafted, $180, $180, and I'm like, who has $180? I mean, I don't have $180. So we worked on the Moxon kit. I got a kit together, $40. That's back before inflation. It's $40. Sold it. Got Tamar, the same person who did the bench shop, did a video on it. Sold so many of those kits, and it's still one of our best sellers every day. So I try to do that. That's kind of our mantra. So we try to have good price tools, good quality tools, and provide them to the community. So, and every time you guys get my emails, every time I get a deal, like there's a company that went out of business, Colton Riss, great German company, Forstner bits, drill bits. They went belly up, and so we bought the whole warehouse full of stuff. And maybe I should have done it, but I was like, sell it for good, just get rid of it at a good price. So it was this crazy sale we had, and people were buying 100 bits at a time. It was insane. The whole warehouse was screaming at me. But I'm like, I pass on the savings. If I get a good deal, I pass it on to the customer, because I feel like that's the right thing to do. So, there's always some weird thing going on. Some factory has something they're trying to get rid of. Like they got some overstock or there's something a little bit wrong with it. They want to sell it to us, so we pass it on to the customer. So I want to give you a couple stories about behind the scenes how we've developed some tools. So you guys know who Nerix is. Nerix is a really great, they make edge tools. They're from the Czech Republic. We have a really good relationship with a bunch of folks from the Czech. And I've been out there to see them a couple times, and they are this wonderful company that's been in business for 100 years. They still do things the old-fashioned way. They still forge all their chisels, which is the best way to make a chisel. You don't just grind it from a solid chunk of steel, but they bang it with these huge hammers. They heat it up and they bang it, and then they make the basic shape, and then they grind it. So they have this mix of old world tools, but also they have robots and they have grinding machines. So they have, it's kind of a little bit of both. They have whole rooms of just people just grinding by hand, grinding by hand. But it's this really wonderful company that we've developed a great relationship with. So for their 100th anniversary, which was 2019, so it was about 2018, I got this box in the mail. And Philip, he's our director of marketing. He sends me 2 chisels. He didn't tell me anything. He goes, just check them out. Just test them out. So I knew there was something. I knew they were the same. This handle was the same, so I knew there was something about the steel, because I heard they were trying to develop a different kind of steel for their 100th anniversary. So I had never done an objective chisel test. Like, what does that look like? So I kind of devised a way that I could go through. I could put each chisel through the same number of cuts. I did it on pine, I did it on hickory, and I think I did it on catalogs. Have you ever used catalogs? It's like a rock. It's like Purple Heart, but it grows in Mexico. It's this horrible, horrible wood to work with. But so I cut the same thing with all the chisels, and what I found is that this dark one, I just destroyed the edge. The edge would just roll over because it was so hard on it. And this one, I couldn't dull it. I'm like, I can't dull this chisel. I mean, it was just kept going and going and going. And I did it over, and I was completely beside myself. So I wrote it all up and sent it back to him and said, this chisel wins. He goes, yeah, of course, that was right, because it's a special steel. It's this cryogenic steel they developed somewhere. I don't know how they did it, but they were going to make a new chisel. So they were going to bring this to market, and he was going to use this. The Europeans like these really big handles. I guess they just like to grab the chisel like this. But so I was like, come on, you gotta change the chisels. The chisel design the handle design has to change. So I went, and I'm not much of a lathe turner, but I turned all these handles. I turned a whole bunch of different styles of handles, from just tapered ones and just different style. I mean, I just turned them all, and I picked the one I liked, and I sent it to him. And so he didn't tell me. And then he was actually going to finish it. He goes, he didn't know how. He sent me this chisel, and I forget what he had finished it with. He like waxed it or something, and I was like, you can't do that. So I sent him this recipe for this shellac rub-on finish, and he ended up using. They still use it to this day. So he picked my chisel handle design, and they came out with this chisel here, which is very nice. It's super nice ash handle, stainless steel ferrule. It's a beautiful chisel. So we got the first samples of these. Nobody else had them in the whole U.S. We were the first ones to get. He sent me a set. So I sent it to a YouTube guy, and I sent my protocol that we had developed for objective chisel test. And then we found an actual sharpness tester. You guys, if you can sharpen knives, and you can actually get a little device that has like a little wire that you can, when you cut through it, it measures how much pressure it takes to cut through it, so it can test how sharp things are. So we got a sharpness tester. We did this. They did this massive test, 43 different brands of chisels, from Lee Nielsen to Lee Valley PMV11 to Ashley Isles to Robert Sorby to every single brand in the world, Blue Spruce chisels, all the boutique brands, and he put them through all the tests, and this chisel won. This is the best chisel in the world right now. As of right now, it holds the record. It gets a sharper edge, holds an edge longer. It has he measured things like the side, the side here is beveled nice, so you can get in corners, and the price. He put all these things together, and he gave everything a score. And it's on the Wood by Right channel on YouTube, and it won. And he redid it even at the beginning of the year and included even more chisels, and it won. So this is the best chisel on the planet right now. So, and that's because of a collaboration. Because we worked together, I helped him, he helped us, and then of course then we had the first batch of chisels ever. We got them on, and of course they sold really well. So these are a really great chisel. So that's just one way we work together. It's funny, Nerix, the guy that designs the tools, doesn't work with wood. He's a salesman. So he always comes to me and goes, got any ideas? So I go, make this, make that. And he does it. And every year he has to come up with 2 new tools, and that's kind of his job. And so he always calls me up, can you help me with the chisel? He calls other people, I'm not the only one, but he relies on the collaboration that we have. So that's a very interesting story so these are the best chisels ever. So it's great story. So another kind of story of a collaboration would be this 3M Cubitron. I know some people have heard about it, but we became a 3M distributor in like 2019, and it's kind of a big deal. Most 3M distributors buy and sell to industry, so they didn't know what to do with us because we wanted to buy and sell to the consumer, and they're like, that didn't fit in their model, because their model is really like an old school salesman thing where the salesman would drive around and visit the factory and take in samples and give them to them, and that was it. And then, so they never sold to the consumer. So they scratched their head with us. But we were approved after 3 interviews. And so then I'm looking at, and the main thing we got, the first thing we sold was this film for sharpening, this lapping film. We use it for the Scary Sharp system. So I was thinking about adding some abrasives. So I was looking through other catalogs. And 3M has 2 million things in their catalog. And so I'm overwhelmed, and I can't figure it out. So they sent me these like a little brochure, like a little catalog, a metalworking catalog and a woodworking catalog. So I looked at the woodworking catalog, and nothing struck me. Like the same old discs that I've seen a million times. Then I'm looking through a metalworking catalog, and I'm like, Cubitron? Like, what's Cubitron? Like, what is this stuff? So I get some samples, and I start messing with it, and I start learning about it, and I'm like, this is amazing stuff. Like, why is this not being sold to woodworkers? And so during the pandemic, when we were all stuck in our house, we couldn't go to the grocery store without being scared to death, I did a test. I said, I'm going to do an objective test on sandpaper. And so I devised a simple test where I wanted to learn 3 things. I want to learn 3 things. How much material does it remove? How long does it last? And what's the price? Is it, because this stuff was expensive. And I thought, is there like a way I could gauge a value? Even if it's an expensive sandpaper, if it removes a lot of material fast, it's better value than a cheap sandpaper that doesn't work at all. So I sanded for 5 minutes, and I would weigh the board. And then I would sand this. I did this 5 times. So I did 5 intervals of 5 minutes, and I would weigh the board. So I get a total amount of material you removed in 25 minutes. Then I could see how it dulled. So like the first round may remove 10 grams and 8 grams. So I could see how the paper dulled. And I could see all the different papers. And I ordered paper from everybody. I mean, I ordered every manufacturer. I'd call them up, what's your best paper? Send me your best paper. And a lot of people only had one, like DeWalt and Makita, and they only had one paper, like Gator brand, Walmart. So I didn't have to choose. But I got all the paper, and I spent hours sanding it in my garage. And I would wait. I have the same board I used to make it. And this paper was astounding, because when I sanded, after 25 minutes of sanding, the discs were sharper than all the other brands, brand new out of the box. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. And so You know, and I've sanded for years. We all sand, right? But I would sand and I would be sanding with this crappy paper, and I'm like, I guess it looks like it's doing okay. Then I would weigh the board, and it's like, it didn't remove anything. Sometimes I would weigh the board, and it didn't remove anything. It was just like, I was just like moving the paper around. So it was very enlightening to me to see the paper. So this is the original one. This is a Cubitron 2, and it's got like a film backing on it. It's really, really heavy duty, and you can't tear it, and it lasts forever. And so what did I do? I took the information that I got, and I fed it to a YouTube guy and said, do a video. Jonathan Katz-Moses. He did a video and blew up. So the whole internet's talking about this Cubitron stuff. And kind of the little backstory on Cubitron, if you don't know what Cubitron is. Cubitron is so about the mid-'80s, 3M's been making sandpaper for 120 years. First thing they made, they're the first sandpaper manufacturer ever. So in the mid-'80s, they developed this ceramic material that they would crush up. And sandpaper grit is usually just crushed up, and they just filter it out, and then just take whatever different size particles, and they could glue it to paper. So it was just this round ceramic glob they would glue to sandpaper. In the mid-'90s, they perfected this technique where they could actually make little bitty triangles, like little bitty tortilla chips. I bring these with me because I think it's instructive. Like little bitty tortilla chips, and there's not a good, they're all broken. But like a little bitty tortilla, God, they're all broken, it's terrible. So like a little bitty tortilla chips, they could make them all the same size. And they're out of this really hard material. And not only that, but they realized that the material was really hard, but when it fractured or when you would dull it, it would just break off. And there would be a new sharp edge. So even when it dulled, it was still sharp. So then they got this great invention, and then they're like, well, we can't just glue it on sandpaper and lay it on there like this, It'll just be flat, it won't really cut. So they figured out a way to get them all to stand at attention, like sticking straight up with static electricity, and they were able to glue it to paper. So it was these really sharp edges, really hard, broke off like glass, it would new sharp edges, it was all sticking up, got it on sandpaper, and they're like, this is the greatest thing ever. And then they introduced it to the metalworking community. They use it for grinding wheels and stuff like that, and it was amazing. But it wasn't until like the 2010 that they started putting it on sandpaper. They marketed it to the metalworking community. And I was like, the woodworking community was just like, they don't need this. And so it wasn't until our study that kind of really pushed this stuff into the woodworking world. Then Jonathan Katz-Moses was going to do another test with a robot. He wanted to be objective. And that was last year, it was a year ago. And he was out in East Coast, and he was doing his study, and I get word that this new stuff came out. It's called Extract. This is a net. This is a net backing, so it has good dust extraction. So I got the first sample that was available in the US. I overnighted it to Jonathan Katz-Moses. He fits it in the study at the last minute. This stuff crushed the competition. It was actually better than this. This was better than this. And it was amazing. And this is half the price. So we're like, this is crazy. It's half the price. So it got in the study, and then of course it blew up again, and everybody wants the Extract, and that got visibility for it. So that was a perfect example of how we have to interact with our suppliers to find. I'm looking in the back of their catalog, find something, to test it out, take the information, feed it to somebody to do get the visibility, and get it out there. So, and then just like a week ago, literally a week ago, I get this sample, which is this 310 Dex stuff. So this is like the newest stuff. I don't know how it does it. It's not meant to be as aggressive stock removal, but that's actually even less expensive than this. Like, this is the cheapest, some of the cheapest sandpaper you can buy. Cheaper than the Marker Abinet and the Festool and all that stuff. It's actually a good value. When's the last time that the best stuff on the market is the cheapest? When? This never happens. And so this is even cheaper. So this just came out. So, and by the way, I have samples up here of all this stuff you guys could take home. I called 3M and said, send me samples. They sent me a big box of samples. So another example of a collaboration. That's how we work together with our manufacturers. That helps. Everybody wins when we do this. And so that's what keeps me, that's what excites me. So another example of a collaboration was the How many, does anybody here use hand braces? Anybody? Very many people? Well, so for years we've used these bits from Wood Owl. Wood Owl is a company from Japan. They're from Miki, Japan, which is kind of like the Sheffield, England. It's like where everybody goes in Japan to make tools. All the saw makers are there. Everybody goes to Miki, Japan. There's a story about Sheffield. There's a guy that came to visit us from the UK, a saw maker from Sheffield. Like, what's with Sheffield? Like, why is everybody there? He said, there was something about the pH in the water that when they would harden steel, they could get it harder than anywhere else. So that's why everybody went to Sheffield. Back in the day, there was hundreds of manufacturers in Sheffield making tools, all kinds of stuff. It's because of the pH in the water. And there's word out in the street that in Miki, Japan, the soft water actually helps stuff get harder than in other places. So, but these little bits here are just an auger bit. They designed them for linemen. So when they're on top of a pole, they can use a cordless drill. So it can drill through a pole with a cordless drill that doesn't have a lot of torque. And so they drill real easily, and they drill really balanced, and they're just a fabulous bit. They're like so I thought, I gotta check it out. So what did I do? I designed a study. So I got a board. I got one board, one 2x12. I bought a brand new drill, and I took these bits. I took every bit I could buy, DeWalt, Milwaukee, all the bits, every bits in the world. And I figured out, I saw how many holes can I drill on a charge. I thought, okay, this will tell me how much torque how much power they use. And then I looked to see what the hole looked like, entrance and exit hole. It's on our website. And then I just made observations like how balanced it was. And so, of course, this bit won, hands down, because I drilled like 50% more holes than the next bit. And the hole quality was really good. It didn't blow out the hole in the front and the back. But the other thing that was really striking to me was there were some bits that literally almost broke my wrist as they poked through the back. They were so bad, if I was on top of a pole, there's no way that would fall off that ladder. I mean, it was just so bad. They were just so horrible. It was just awful. I mean, I'm like, they sell these things. And of course, so this was a fantastic bit. So then I thought, why could I not use this in a hand brace? Because it takes so little effort to use. And so I started messing with them, and they did. I could take a 1-inch bit, like an old, I don't know the brand is, but a vintage auger bit, and I would drill I'd sharpen it up and I'd drill a 1-inch hole. This one I was just like, there was hardly any effort at all. So it was fantastic. And so the problem was it has a hex head, and most hand braces have a 2-jaw chuck, which takes a square or a tapered kind of square head. So I was like, well, let's make an adapter. So we made an adapter, simple. Made an adapter, goes on here, little screw holds it on here. Now you have the best auger bit on the planet. And so I fed it to the YouTube guys. Of course, the YouTube guys love us because there's new stuff. Wood by Wright, the chisel handle guy, he did the study, or he didn't do a study, but he just presented it, and we got great visibility. So now these are all the talk on the hand tool world. They're also a really good auger bit. If you need an auger bit just for general putting a hole through a beam in your garden, they're still a great bit. So so perfect example of a collaboration that we did. So it's really nice. So I got some notes here. So the auger bit. So the last story I'll tell is about these blocks here. Anybody use 1, 2, 3 blocks in their shop or for setup? Yeah. So we've actually sold these for years. But I've been in the past 5 years maybe that I started learning about them. But this is just a piece of steel. No big deal. It's just simple, pretty simple. They're pretty cheap. You get a set for like $20. They're they're made out of hardened steel. So if you drop them on your concrete floor, they won't dent. They're 1 inch by 2 inch by 3 inch. But they're very precision. So this block is guaranteed to be sized to 1/10,000th of an inch. 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch. I mean, you gotta let that hit you. I mean, I don't even know how to measure a 10,000th of an inch. And so I started looking things up, like a red blood cell is 3/10,000ths of an inch. So these things are very precise. So they can be used for setup. They can be used for a lot of different things. And like you can set your table saw blade up with this. You can set your joiner fence. They're very cheap. They're like cheaper than a machinist square. You can get 2 for $20. And so, plus they're square. They're square. And they're parallel and all that kind of stuff. So they're very, very precise. They're very useful if you have them in your shop. So I was using them. I use them for corner blocks, for clamping corners together. It works great because you can get one of those, like a little face frame clamp. You put it in there and you can hold it. So then I started messing with, like, what if I were to hook 2 together? But then if you do hook 2 together, you got like a bolt sticking out, a head sticking out, and it just is terrible. I mean, it really decreases the usefulness of them. So I started messing with a set of hardware. This was last summer, that I could hook 2 together where the hardware was completely embedded inside. And so it didn't take long, but we came up with a little hardware pack where you can hook 2 together and there's no hardware exposed. And I literally took 2 blocks and every possible configuration that I could come up with, I could hook 2 together with no exposed hardware. So then what do? Feed it to the YouTube guys. He did it, and I think we sold 3,000 sets in a day. Just boom, because it was cheap. The hardware was cheap, just really fast. Now it's daily seller. Everybody gets it. They buy a block, they buy the hardware kit. So that's another thing that I did. So I'm just like things we do on the side. So, another thing we do, another thing that I have done is I know somebody even commented on these. These are rulers. We all use machinist rulers. We should all have 1 or 2 machinist rulers in our shop. Not the kind you get from Home Depot, but a decent machinist ruler that has stated accuracy standards. Tell me how accurate it is. And generally, if it's a good ruler manufacturer, they'll tell you it's within a certain amount. This has something, I forget what it is, but most machinist rulers, what do they have on it? 8ths and 16ths on one side. What's on the other side? Does anybody ever use that side? Anybody ever use that side? Well, what's 17/32? What's 19/64? Like, tell me. I gotta if I see it, then I gotta get out and do some math, and I'm like, I hate it. I hate it. I got a ruler. I looked at all my rulers. I'm like, I only use half of this ruler. So we went to a company that used to make Bridge City tools back in the 80s. They're from India. They're a great company. So we just had them make 8ths and 16ths on both sides. Like, what a shocking thing. What a revelation. It's like, I use the whole ruler. It's got the 16ths on the top here, and then if you flip it, it's on the bottom. So you always you just need to flip it and you can get what you need. So these rulers are very inexpensive. It's like $8 or something for the 12-inch, which for a machinist ruler, that's cheap. A Starrett would cost you about $45 if this was a Starrett. So we kind of messed with that, and that was a little project we did, and now we got a whole bunch of different machinist rulers that are in 8ths and 16ths. And I call them woodworking rulers because that's what we need. That's the kind of measurement, that's what I like. Like tape measures don't have 30 seconds, right? And if they do, it's so confusing. I mean, I can't read them. I mean, I've been a woodworker for a long time, and I don't find those numbers useful at all. Maybe machinists might. Machinists use the finer gradations, but that doesn't really help me. If I need to measure a 16th, like a 30 seconds, I could tell the middle of 2 marks. I find that to be more useful than having another mark there and another number, and it just complicates the whole side of the ruler. So that's an example. So that's what we try to do. We try to be innovative. We do sell name brands like everybody else. We sell microjig, we sell mags, all the boring stuff. We sell all that stuff, but we try to have our own little piece. So I don't know if you want to check out our kits here, you can. We sell stuff for a wheel marking gauge. This is the simplest thing to make. If you want to make one with just this piece of wood, you can make this thing in an hour. You have a marking gauge that is got a nice cutter on it. Obviously the coping saw, burnishers, chisels, awls, screwdrivers, a lot of marking knives. These are really sweet. They're a simple project, nice marking knife if you're a hand tool woodworker. Even if you're not a hand tool worker, a good marking knife is useful to have. bevel gauges. These are made for us by Joseph Marples, who's been in business, I don't know, 200 years. He makes our blades and our kits for these. Hand screw clamps. People don't know what to do with these now, do they? They don't know. They can't open them. They're like, you give it to them, they're like, they can't figure it out. So, but they're great kit. Different stuff. We got a lot of stuff. So I got pencils for everybody. If you want a pencil, there's pencils here. If you want some sandpaper, I can give you different samples of sandpaper, so you can take it home with you and try it. I'm right on time. So any questions or anything like that? So, go ahead.
Would you consider sponsoring a podcast?
I don't know. Email me, we'll talk about it. Email me, we'll talk about it. Yeah, but yeah, I would consider it. I'd consider it.
Please use microphones.
I'm trying to think what's coming down the pike. My brain's actually blanked right now, but there's a couple things we're working on.
Oh, come on.
We have a new version of the Moxon kit coming out. It's going to be a while. That actually, instead of the rods sticking out of the front, the rods kind of embed back in the back. I'm trying to think. I had a whole bunch of stuff, like a little portable router table, that you can just hook to your bench real fast and real easy. So router plates for the palm. You guys use the palm routers, the little battery operated ones, that the base plate's like 2 inches in diameter that tip everywhere. You want to do a little one that's a little bigger that has handles on it so you don't get lost.
Might want to talk about the 3M Extra.
There's a come from. Oh, and if you want to take a peek at the sander, they released a sander too just like 2 months ago. You can look at this. It's kind of competing with the Merca and the Festool, so you can look at it. I have a sample of the Izzy Swan table someone wanted me to bring, but that's one of the raffle items that's going to be raffled today. You can look at that. I try to bring a little spattering of stuff without bringing too much, but yeah, so. Got it.
Do you make carving tools?
Nerix makes carving tools, but I will say
Carving knives?
They make a nice Sloyd knife. There's a couple knives. The issue with carving and lathe tools with us is that somehow we just can't get traction in the lathe turners and the carvers. So we bring tools on and they sit on our website forever. So now we've kind of carved down, bad use of a term, but we've kind of carved down our line so there's only a few things. But we usually use Nerix stuff, and that's what, so.
So do you have different grits in the sandpaper?
These are sample packs. So in the sample pack, you get 80 through 320. You get a couple pieces of each. And so I have 3 different types you can try if you'd like to do it. I think I only have 40 kits of each. And I have 5 and 6 inch too. So let me know and I'll kind of get you the right grit. So yeah, this is a nice sample pack. It's a nice variety pack. You can try it out. So yeah. Anything else?
Do you have a retail outlet?
We have a place where you can drop in and you will pull anything off the shelf for you to look at, but we don't necessarily have a retail space. We have like 5,000 items. It would be a huge retail space, and we tried it before COVID, then COVID hit, and that put a kibosh on it, killed it completely. We haven't resurrected that.
Customer service is outstanding.
We have really good customer service. These ladies can answer things I can't answer. It's amazing. They are really good. We send them to classes, local maker space. We send them to there and make them take classes so they know what a saw blade is, and they're really good. They only bring me a phone once in a while. Like maybe 3 times a day I have to answer questions, so it's pretty good. It's nice. Okay.
So I already said I'll put a link to the website in the description on the YouTube, and then also you're always in our classified ads on Friday.
Right.
Do you have the Nerix chisels?
Do you have the Nerix chisels in imperial measurements?
We do. We have some sets in imperial. These are imperial. These are imperial. This set here. The Richters are imperial, and then we have one other set that's in imperial. If you look under Nerix imperial, we had to have them custom made for us because they all do everything in metric. So yeah, we do.
I knew Lee Valley at one time offered the imperial set too.
Lee Valley has them made for them too in imperial. They do, yeah. So yeah, it's good. So.
Just want to comment. I'm one of the shop foremen here. Last week we had a guy come in with the kit you have there for the coping saw. I'll tell you folks, that was some quality work, some quality stuff there. I was really impressed.
No, with stainless steel parts, and the handles are made out of ash. It's good. It's good stuff.
I was impressed with the quality of your work.
Good. Appreciate that.
Mike, you had a couple of pieces for door prizes. I think we already gave the numbers out.
Okay.
So, right?
You had the, okay. Oh, we had a blend. Yeah. A machine is square. It's metric in English. I'm sorry, that's all we got. That's all I had in stock.
Oh, how many door prizes did we have? And who won? Jim won. All right, Jim, come get your door prize.
Is it both of these together? Oh, is there two separate ones? Take your pick.
There were two, weren't there?
What is it?
One is an extension table for your table saw that extends your miter slot about
choose
10
one.
inches, and that's a square. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very much. Great
Yeah.
presentation.
Any other questions for Mike while we're here?
I got one more thing to get. This is the Izzy swap.
We just gave away one. You can keep that one.
Oh, you sure?
I think so. Do we still have the numbers in the?
Well, you're going to pay me for it, so just go ahead and keep them for next month.
We can use it here.
Okay, there you go.
There you go. Just use it here.
Great idea.
It's actually nice. It's a nice tool. It's nice.
Awesome. Thanks. Great suggestion, Craig. Hey, Mike, thank you for coming. This is a great presentation.
So come up and get your sandpaper.
It's very exciting. One thing, it's a small token of our appreciation, but you only get one of these mugs if you come to a presentation here. So
all right.
We always get our mug shot. So show that.
Take the pictures before you rush the table.
God, like kids on Christmas.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, cool.
Much appreciated.
Right. So let me get the paper set up.
Thanks, everyone.
Did you want to?
Hey,
oh my gosh, that's
come
amazing.
check out the items up here, and as always,
crazy.
help us clean up, drive carefully.
Wow.
And thank you all for being here.
Angle of the handle.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
Of course, that one you've seen before.
Yeah.
That I've never seen.
Hold on, let me get the paper for you. So.
A special thank you to our guest today, to the Guild's Leadership Committee, and to all of our sponsors. For more information about the Guild, upcoming classes, and events, please visit our website kcwg.org. You can also find us on social media by searching for Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. And remember to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications.